Good afternoon. Welcome back. Well, that was about as sideways as it gets. From start to finish, I think we finished within a basis point, but that was a lot of good green action. So we got about as expected. It looked like we might be able to get something at close. Most of it, this was some growth tickers that actually started to pick up towards the tail end. C Trader called out DocuSign. That had a nice move coming into close. So we had a few tickers doing some of this, right? Just melting through as sort of again as the average is sort of trading flat. That lends to demand coming through, catching up on some of these other tickers, right? That idea of converging and we did have a lot of these growth tickers do this pullback that has led into a sharp sort of rally, right, to catch back up. Other than that, everything is right where we left it. When we look at some of the tickers that did the best today and what we've been looking at, they didn't really change at all through what we saw this morning, which is what we wanted to see and lends itself to sort of the longer term trading that we're really trying to sort of perform with. And you know I would say that's definitely what we have here. The VRM trade here, I think, understanding that this was going to how this was going to come up, and even beyond just looking at a few tickers are doing sort of these technical plays. Just about everything in the market is trading very technical. Everything is trading on a trend. Everything is reacting to levels that we've been looking at. It's very on point. And so when we look at for something like VRM here, you have a resistance here, and you expect that once this level gets broken, it's going to be able to catch up very quick to sort of where we were looking for it to go. And just to see moves react like this, and it doesn't really need to, right? It doesn't need to do this, sort of how the market's trading right now, but it is specifically trading around levels so strongly. And we've been seeing this very recently again, of breakouts actually continuing to break and to continue to follow levels. And it's not always like that. It's not always pretty. Sometimes, it can be bullish, and it keeps going up and it looks okay, and you could say, okay, well, this idea was all right. And then other times it works out a lot better, right? And we're certainly in a time where things are trading, I don't know what you want to call it, but it's very technical. And to have today, some of the moves today, you can really see it and feel it, and there's no almost it almost feels like there's nothing that is really going wrong. Everything's going exactly right. When that happens, I usually am looking for, okay, what's going to go wrong here? Again, when everything is trading between levels so sort of diligently, there's certainly something that needs to go wrong from this point. And so this is where, we look at semiconductors. Some of these were bullish again here, and specifically what we're looking at and how they're trading, and something needs to go. It's not that since things are going right, it needs to go wrong, but we have to sort of change what we're looking at, since when you look at something like UMC here, it's now climbed up to where I expect it to go, but it's done it in half the time. And so now what exactly are you looking at? And this is where I talked about earlier. It's one thing to get something to a position or an area that you expect, but then what are you supposed to do when you get there if you get there early, right? It's not like you're running a race and then you won the race by, 10 minutes, and then it's like, well, what am I going to do now? It's, well, you already won, so who cares, right? So like Ecto says, are we winning yet? Yeah, market's at all-time high, just keeps rolling through the all-time high. Well, we expect that, so what are we doing now, right? What are we doing here? We're just kind of sitting in positions. It's important that we understand what we're doing, right? And that's why we're in positions that we can just let it run. Just sit there, do nothing, right? We're looking for where exactly do we need to be making decisions, which is if something does put a lot of points on it quickly, now from that point, how far can you be holding? I've used a few different examples where using the average velocity, which is usually where I'm putting the target lines, if we use these as supports when we've broken out so quickly, if we use them as supports as time goes on, that's a good way to look at it. And that's where you can understand what kind of position you really need to be in. And then based on what position you are in, you can make decisions, right? If you're in a position where you couldn't hold this coming around, sort of rolling over back towards the target here, and you wouldn't be able to hold through that, then that probably means it's time to take profit, right? You're probably at a point where you've got a lot of points on it. It wouldn't make sense to lose all that profit if you could just re-enter another position, right? A lot of times it's going to be one or the other. You're in a position and you'll take profit at that high to go enter at a new low. Other times, if you're in a long enough position, you're going to want to hold through that so that you can continue to push the position longer. But it depends, right? It depends on what you had already entered. Some of those positions, depending, again, it's hard to look at some of these because some of these charts are trading so technical that if you are able to take a new entry and swing between sort of how these levels are trading, some of these charts are definitely going to lend to selling at the resistance, waiting for it to come back down to support, buy it there, right? If you're able to, right? Now, not everything is going to be perfect like that, right? And you're not going to be able to, it's like you trade spot here, we track it from the low, you trade it, and then this starts to come down. You have to get out of these positions, but we re-enter these positions as well, right? Some of these are, just due to the fact that some of them traded differently from the average are now catching back up. We've been able to swing them back and forth. Not all of them are really presenting the opportunity, but everything is trading the same way, which is to the upside. Everything is very bullish. The only thing that wasn't bullish today that really sets up some interesting ideas is the retail store side, which I did post a few charts on, and that I do expect to be quite bullish. It is interesting. So we have a few tickers that sort of present themselves on this side, and whether or not this timing is going to line up with sort of coming over the earnings hump, or it could just be at any time. Again, the market just sort of pushing through all-time highs. We sort of switch which sectors are getting heat on every single week. So again, I just sort of mapped out these breakouts. Those are definitely something we're watching for this week to see if we can get entered, sort of an entry at the lows, right? You get something like this here, there's nothing you could do on this candle. There's literally nothing you can do here. And you look at these, there's nothing you can do on these candles. And so we're going to need to see more, but those definitely present opportunities because I think they're definitely, again, this is an outlier, right? These candles don't really add up to what we've seen in price action. They certainly don't make sense in terms of the economic data that we've seen. That's sort of the biggest red flag is when you see something that's been so bullish, and we've seen economic numbers that back up that consumers are spending a shit ton of money, and we've even seen it in earnings, and then we get a day like this, it's just demand going somewhere else. That's literally all it is, right? And we know that. It's important we keep our eye on these tickers, and this was through all of consumer sort of side of things. We saw Pepsi, and we saw I think the K chart was probably a good example. This sort of price action, those are going to be opportunities. Let's be honest. Those are pretty straightforward. So that's what we're really looking for. The whole value side did have some take profit. Now, I thought this was interesting here with T, that it did not hold this area up here, which it basically brought the down with it. And so we've seen some of these other again, consumer-oriented sort of tickers that it does beg a couple questions of what exactly is the price action. Now, I do like this price action a lot on this PG chart, for instance, right? And I talked about it looked like it was going to be able to break through here. We're really eyeing it, seeing if that was going to happen. Then you get this rejection here. We're seeing this now across the board. Now, this was a good leading indicator because trying to put our eyes on this and understand it, and then seeing this come down, we've now seen this sort of carry over to other tickers that are within this area. It doesn't really make much sense. And so we have to ask ourselves, why exactly is the market selling on this consumer side? again, whatever you want to call this sector with retail stores and some, again, it's like consumer non-durables is the sector, but those have multiple other sectors within it. What exactly is the move here? Obviously, the market thinks that there's something negative there in the short term, as we have growth picking up here in the in the near term as well. What exactly is the relationship there? It's going to be interesting to see. And then these are getting cheaper and cheaper. So if we're able to take these bets on the way down and try to pick it up on the way to the upside, before things really get picking back momentum to the upside, those will definitely be nice trades. So going to be looking for those. There's there's a few different approaches to that. We'll see when we get into it. I think there's definitely some room to still let these things sort of consolidate and maybe build some confidence before we get there. It doesn't need to be a full just jump in now and then we'll take it. We'll give it a moment, right? We'll give it a moment. So I thought even the downside was definitely, again, it's new opportunity. So the biggest problem here when the market's trading all-time high and everything is going up is that everything is going up. There's nothing that you can really screw up here, right? And so we do need opportunities, and at the end of the day, as long as you're in positions that are going to the upside, you're doing okay. And so when we do get those new opportunities that other people aren't going to take, we beg to have those, right? Those alpha trades that someone else isn't buying if it's going down, right? Market's going to wait for it to go green. That's just how it goes, right? And so we definitely want to be able to capture those. I mean, I'm pretty sure this list is about identical to what we saw this morning. There's really not much to talk on. Now, in terms of Chinese tickers, I think, again, this is really the thing to watch. Everything else is sort of doing what we expect and what we've seen. I think the China tickers are certainly, when you look at some of the price action today, it is very difficult to look at these and get a good understanding. The whole thing is they're all separate. Every single one of these charts is separate. It's really not clear. And I think it definitely sets up the most points. So again, I've talked about travel is probably the short term. The travel sector is certainly the sector that is going to offer the most short term sort of gain if it does make a move, because it's sort of, again, it's sort of in this very strange spot that I think there's so much uncertainty that, again, hitting the buy button over here is just a lot of points. And then China is really the short term to long term that offers the most percent gain in terms of anything. That if it is correct, then it's going to offer a very big yield, because everyone's going to want to jump back on it if it does. Because again, everyone's just betting on basically U.S. equities, because we've sort of gone into this momentary pause on emerging markets and everything else, because there's literally no point in buying anything else besides American, which is a very American thing to say, but that's just where we are in terms of the market economics of everything, right? So we'll see how that turns out. Now, mega caps really, again, growth has been the biggest thing so far. Do we get any Tesla? Again, Amazon action like this is just insane. Just an insane amount of points. Do we get anything here yet? Nothing yet on Tesla. Again, I don't expect this to matter much. I do not expect it to matter much. This will be our first glimpse at, if we don't get some big price action here on Tesla, I think it's a proof of concept going into the next earnings. If Tesla doesn't make a very big move here, then I think we're almost ready to sleep through the rest of earnings, I would say. Now, again, most price action is not going to be during intraday. It's going to be, again, when the market's not open, due to earnings, and just due to the fact that's where we are because we're trending so much. It's going to get a little sleepy. I think it's going to get a little sleepy, and I think we already saw it today. There's really not much to watch after the open, and you can see how it closed. Is really, I think, close. The only thing that can happen is you can get baited into buying new things, trying to chase momentum at the end of the day, but it's just reacting, right? It's not really building upon anything from earlier. It's just continuing what was happening, and so really, again, everything. If you want to get a piece of something, you just need to enter it from open and just sit in it for a week, right? You just need to sit in positions. And so if we don't get basically anything here from Tesla, from earnings, then I think we're pretty much going to be set up for the rest of earnings. We have Google and Microsoft tomorrow in terms of tech, and then Wednesday's Apple and Facebook, I believe. So, in terms of mega caps, I think they really don't matter, and it's more about what are we gonna hear and see, and we're gonna see, right? But I would love to see nothing happen from earnings. I would love to see things just continue to trend, and we sort of ignore it because we're already pricing it. We already understand, and we're already pricing these ideas. There shouldn't be much volatility, right? There shouldn't be very much volatility. When it says Biden speaking Wednesday, I'm not sure. Does Biden speak Wednesday? I haven't even, to be honest with you, I haven't paid attention to politics besides whatever headlines I see. FOMC is Wednesday. FOMC is a lot more important than whatever else is happening. Which again, I don't think the market's doing any pricing. We didn't see it in yields or anything like that. The market doesn't give a shit. So that's where I said we need to see the Fed maybe give us a plan, because I think what maybe the problem is now is that we're so comfortable with where the Fed is that the only thing that's left is a knee-jerk reaction when they finally do something. So can we hear, again, they should be, they're not going to touch interest rates, but they should be touching bonds soon, cutting back on the $120 billion a month, because the bond market's fine. The bond market's completely fine. Like, they could stop providing liquidity tomorrow, and the market would be fine. So, these things, it's like you don't have to keep doing it. They're purposely doing it, right? They're purposely doing something to keep the market in this sort of state. But even if they stopped doing the bond buying right now, it wouldn't change anything in the market. There'd be no problem. There'd be no issue. And so, again, these things, there just has to be a point where they stop doing something. And so, again, that part of things, it has nothing to do with really what's going on, right? So it wouldn't be a problem at all. But I just mean in terms of turning the valve, right? Maybe cut it back a little. Let's go from 120 billion to 100 billion, right? When does that start? Because we're not getting any gauge, right? They keep saying fourth quarter of this year or something. Okay, why don't we just let's hear something, right? So that's the only thing, and the market doesn't even give a shit apparently, because we're just sort of doing the same thing. So we'll see. Again, in terms of tickers that I posted from this weekend, I mean, if the market's trading, this technical, seeing a day like today, I would say what I could do better, and what maybe some of you are looking at, is that this very long-term focus, but now I am sitting on quite a bit of cash. Again, not from my equity side, but from Bitcoin. And so whether or not I'm going to get, how quickly I get back into Bitcoin, when I look at some of these charts, if I just take a little bit shorter term of trades and capture some of these, I mean, if you bought short term on basically anything from the list, from this weekend's list, you did pretty damn well. And usually we'd be on that schedule, but again, since where the market is here and how it's trading, there's not really a good reason to do so. It's just better to be pushing longer term, so you can just hold it for fucking ever, and get real value out of it. But again, some of these, when we go look at some of the price action, it's so technical, and the market is sort of respecting everything so much that you could just go put if you put May monthlies on these, for instance, you're talking about 100%. It's 100%, right? And so some of them, I don't know if I looked at them as missed opportunities, because again, I'm in the right place at the right time. I'm capturing and I'm trying to push further, right? I'm more than one day. I care about more than one day. But I think some of these charts, if I was in a different time frame and a different portfolio than I have right now, then most of these I would not have been buying longer term, and I'd be taking advantage of the moment right now. And so, for instance, like the meme stocks, like if we're looking at BB here, right? I'm not going to go push a 3 month position on this. Like it's not going to happen. So some of these, again, I think it does call for, okay, you've got an idea and a bias, but does that chart have anything to do with that idea? Have anything to do with the rest of your tickers? If the answer is no, then just trade it accordingly, right? And so some of these, again, a lot of charts have really benefited from having a bias and by being able to push through things. And we have a lot of examples of that, right? Where something even like bios is very short term, and we never trade bios very long term. It's very much a swing, and as soon as the swing move stops, we exit the trade. But with our bias currently, it's to hold through pullbacks to be able to push long term, and that's benefited us. Some of these, it's never going to happen. Am I ever going to hold this? If this thing pulls back, am I going to hold it? No, of course not. I'm going to exit immediately because that's really not the point of some of these charts. It's a one-way street, right? You enter calls, it's one way. If it doesn't keep going up, you're out of the trade. So some of these, I think I should have been a little bit more aggressive on. That's like when we're trying to wrap our head around the clean energy idea. This is such a far out idea. Earnings literally don't matter. They're not going to matter for years, and it's such a far out there idea that's getting funding, but we may not really see, and we don't really know the individual tickers themselves. These are almost, it almost feels like I should just take I'm taking long-term trades on these. Almost feels like maybe some of these we're going to need to cut back a little bit, and they're going to need to be split up, right? Do you want one big trade, or do you want 3 trades? Are those 3 different trades being able to swing in there going to offer more points? Some of these, I think we're getting into a point where it might be, right? Based on where we are, it might be. And so maybe taking maybe an in-between approach on some of these charts, again, sort of the tickers that are now coming out of the low, just thinking about where the market is, it might be the best sort of opportunity. Just because, again, just being able to swing between the levels, we are in a state of just really trading between levels, and it offers a swing opportunity. And if you know price is going to go directly to a level and then stop there, then that's the perfect trade to go take, buy at support, sell at resistance, get in, get out, and go do it again, right? If you can make that trade 5 times, that's 5 different, whatever percent trades getting added up instead of just one trade that you hold through. Instead of one 50% trade, you can make 3 50% trades. 150% is a lot better than 50%. And a lot of the time, all you lost was some time and some different actions that you took there, right? So, there might be some ideas. I don't see anything on Tesla. Looks like a dud. Looks like a dud. Unless they're going long. Unless they're going long. Let's see. What did I have to we already mentioned China. Semis, mega caps obviously look very good. We need to wait for earnings anyway. In terms of most recent charts, if you look through the lists, everything's fucking green. So if you've been looking at the most recent list, there's nothing that's not. Again, everything is pretty green. So again, a chimp could have guessed the tickers, like a chimp brain. I'm a chimp brain. You're chimp brain. You could have thrown a dart. You would have bought something that went green. So again, depending on what you're in, it's important not to look too closely at it, other than understanding, okay, am I getting a nice technical trade here because of my levels, or is it just because the market's going up? It's important to realize the difference. Most things are just going up. So we'll see how that continues. I expect things to continue to be slow. The question still is, what is this going to do? Is doing nothing. China's doing nothing. I don't think our market everything's just trading flat, so it doesn't really matter. Flat to the upside, just trending towards the upside, doesn't really matter. These sort of things are going to be what changes the tone. If the Hang Seng gets going, then our market's going to fucking explode. So, there's not much to do here. You could probably sleep this whole week. Probably sleep the whole week. I just don't see anything happening here. I would love for something to happen, guys, but I don't think anything's gonna happen. So I think tomorrow maybe we'll find some different things to do. If from the open not much happens, maybe we'll start doing some different things, going over some different things, and utilizing the time during that moment a little bit better. Really, the only thing we're looking for tomorrow that should be interesting is what happens with some of these value tickers that took a little bit of a beating. Otherwise, everything continues. I have some more charts tonight that finally broke back through what I was looking for Friday from last week. So some of the growth tickers, I talked about some of those sort of these up and coming tickers that are coming out of the lows or we're consolidating at the high, finally breaking out. We've got a few more of those. So I know the list is getting kind of large on the breakout side, and so we have a lot of new recent tickers, sort of a very big influx. But again, that's just, it's not so much you need to trade all of them. It's just showing that everything is breaking out together. Should show the bullishness. Eventually, you'll see the breakout slow down, and that should tell us really where we are in the phase when things really start to stop breaking out as much. That's usually how I utilize the breakouts and a lot of patterns happening at the same time. If a lot of patterns are happening at the same time, it's likely that the market really is breaking out together. And we're seeing a lot of signs that it should continue and it's heating up, right? And we get a time frame. Once they start to slow down and there's not as many tickers breaking out at the same time, then we can sort of, we pull it back and we start to see the timeline is shortening, and we're still very much in the prime of the breakout happening. So yeah, it's just, yeah, Spoon says switching to opportunity cost management mode. Too many good ideas. Yeah, it's, again, this is where it's everything rushes in at once, and it's very easy to again, this is where it's very easy to be like, oh, my idea is so good, and then there's just like 100 other good ideas, and so it's like, okay, well, as long as I do one of them, I'm going to be doing fine. And that's where people really fuck up, is that you end up not doing anything and you just watch everything. There's people here right now still that are just watching price, right? And they haven't done anything. And like now their money just hit their broker or something, and they just took profit on something else, and now they think the price is too high, so they can't go do anything. And I mean, you could say that fucking 10 years ago, right? Like, again, these things are not really, I don't know. I'm not really sure what the best way to look at it is with people that are too far ahead. So we'll see. We'll see what we get. I'm certainly curious to see what we get for some earnings, and what stops this trend this time? Like, that's the question. That's the only question I have in my mind, is what stops the trend this time? What starts our consolidation? What's the reason to exit any position? There's almost no reason to, for institutions and for the larger side of things, there is zero reason to exit long positions right now. It's very different, and it's again why we've shifted the focus to long term. There's no reason to exit anything. There's absolutely no reason. There's no event coming until next year. No event until next year that would change the cycle, the flow of anything. There's literally nothing. And so, again, this is where you want to make money. You just bet from here until next year, when we finally get some inflation that is actually shown in the data, then you're going to make a lot of money. And so again, taking advantage of this opportunity, I just don't see anything changing. There's almost not, there's not one thing that comes to mind that could change. The only thing that could change is the Fed randomly decides that it's done. It's just done. And that's what I mean. I think they're not going to do that. They're going to set up a plan and tell us exactly how we're going to get out of the situation. They haven't even started to give us a plan yet, which means we have a long fucking time, because they usually give us quite a bit of time, right? They're very quick to jump into the market. It's going to take them years and years to get us out of this thing. And again, QE's never ending. That's the reality. QE's never going to end now. And I think people are still trying to, you see media types still trying to talk about how the Fed is going to stop doing QE. It's never going to fucking stop. The government is never going to stop spending money, guys. It's so hard to see like see that idea and what that means, but the government is never going to stop spending money at this point. It's never going to stop. And it's really hard to look at it, and you have to understand what that means for appreciation every year. You know, like the saying of, oh, the S&P goes up 7% every year, right? Just put your money in the S&P, 7% a year. Why do you think it goes up 7% a year, right? And then you find out the real number, and the real number is 12%. The real number is 12% a year. S&P goes up 12% a year. Okay, so we went from 7 to 12, and now what's happening? Well, now what we have is infinite QE, basically, which it's not a meme. That's the reality. 0% interest rate. And then the government just this past year, has spent trillions of dollars. The most spending in human history in the most shortest amount of time. And we used COVID as the excuse. The Fed was already, go look. The Fed was already, before COVID started, was going to start QE back up. They were already getting ready to start buying back and providing liquidity and getting the market churning. The only thing that was possibly changing were interest rates. That's what Trump kept complaining about, right? Lower the interest rates. Fed was already going to start spending again because of we were going to start fiscal spending. And the government was going to start doing big projects, right? Like what we're doing now, infrastructure projects and fiscal stimulus and giving fucking just write checks to companies and people, right? That spending is so much money. When you talk about the equity market is a $30 trillion market, the treasury market's a $20 trillion market. And then you talk about the economy, and we just pumped trillions of dollars into the economy in 1 year. Trillions and trillions of dollars, the most ever, right? It's going to reverb into these things, and it's going to make these appreciate significantly more than they already have, right? So you're talking about, think about how much has already been gained here, right? When you talk about this sort of trend that we've been on, even just from COVID, the COVID low, look at the percent, right? You're talking about, it's very easy to look at it and then be confused by it, but we only lost, 30% here? And we're up almost 100% from the low. I mean, guys, it's because we're having fucking insane spending, and we haven't even seen the result of it yet. Those numbers haven't come in yet. We literally have not even got the numbers yet. And so, again, just keep it fucking going, right? And that's the only thing that can change it. The only thing that could change it is if that all of a sudden was not going to be the case. That's going to be until at least next year. And so we're in fucking la la land right now. And I don't mean la as in LA, California. I just mean like la la land, you know? I don't know, guys. It's so much money. Yeah, and that's where we're going to see what happens with Bitcoin. That's obviously what I'm really interested to see. I'm still, again, I'm not in my position anymore, waiting. We did not break this level still today. So it's impossible to look at this chart, and it's frustrating me more and more because there's nothing you can do in looking at this chart that is going to tell you anything, I would say. When you look at a chart, you can usually understand the price action that's coming in. And this is, again, due to trading. And I talk about this, and this is my last point, we'll get out of here. When we talk about the equity market, everyone has a different reason of why they're buying or selling. But at the end of the day, everyone has to make the trade. And so whether you're buying a long-term 5-year position because of good fundamentals, or whether or not you're speculating on something coming up at the most recent earnings, or you're trying to take a technical trade because you believe there's support coming up, and so you want to be buying it when it gets to that support. Whatever your reason is, at the end of the day, you still need to make a trade. And so if you're going to make a trade, you want to be getting the best price possible. And you're going to be waiting, or you're going to be more aggressive based on where the price is currently. And so based on where the price is, you're going to try to make a trade that you think is best, which is usually, again, we're trying to time it. We can't time the market, but we can try to see the price and get an idea. And if price starts to go up really quick, oh God, we're going to miss it. We better get in, right? And we get this momentum. Or price is falling really quickly and then it starts to level out and we go, oh, that's the time to go buy in, right? We have these We have these things, and we get to see that price action and that behavior over basically the candles, right? We get to see that price action happen. It's very easy to see in the equity market. We can find supports, and we'll see how people buy it. And again, that's exactly what we do. And it's all we're doing. No matter what people are doing, they still have to hit buy or sell. There's only two options. And all we try to do is time it the best we can. This, no one is trading. No one's trading Bitcoin. There's zero people are trading it. The one person that's trading it out there does not make anything move. They're not trading one full Bitcoin. They're trading 0.0001, right? There's no trading here. So when you go look at these charts, there's nothing connected. And the other problem is that none of the exchanges are connected. And so, yeah, the prices are basically the same, but the orders are all coming in at different times. So everything is sort of jaded, and it's all over the place. Even when you bring it back to, 2 hours or something, it's still all fucking, the noise is too much to really understand what exactly the decisions are being made, right? Like, when you start to look at this stuff, you'll see the difference between equity charts and sort of this Bitcoin chart. So there's nothing from over here that tells me that we've recovered the idea of Bitcoin going to 100,000 because of supply and demand. This is all just sort of, it's a lot of malarkey. It's a lot of bullshit in here. See a lot of bullshit and a lot of, I don't know. That's the whole point, is I don't know what it is. So in terms of looking at this chart, again, it looks very much like every single recovery, but it's not the same. Just from, again, the feel and everything I talked about from over here, that it just doesn't feel good right there. So we'll wait and see. But in terms of getting this trade, what makes it so difficult for me here is that I have not traded this once. I bought in, held it, and got out a year later. I'm now in a situation where I do believe you need to trade it a little bit more to try to get a better average and get in a position. You get in instantly. Where do you do that? How do you do it? You buy right now, and then it comes down 5%, and then you feel like an idiot. And then you're like, well, it doesn't matter because it's Bitcoin. It goes up and down 20% every fucking day if it wants. So when do you buy it from here? And that's where things get difficult, because you can't see it. You can't go, oh, it's tightening. That's not what happened. Where's the tightening that happened down here? This shit it didn't get tight and then go to the upside. It just randomly decided to go to the upside because someone put an order in, right? A lot of chaos over there. It's going to be interesting to see what happens here. Again, I'm very bullish on the idea, but not in the near term, that's for sure. So we'll see. Pretty damn good day. Good start to the week. If you didn't have a good start to the week, that's okay. It doesn't really, again, one day doesn't really matter. And that's why it's important to kind of understand that it's a week-to-week basis. Don't get caught up on every 20 minutes that you look at the market where your position is. Don't get caught up day to day. It doesn't really matter. It matters maybe on paper to some of you, but by the end of the week, it's probably going to already change. And you're probably already going to have a different idea and a different mood to begin with anyway. So you don't really need to get caught up on those. There's not much to learn from the market right now, which does make things difficult. So when we look day to day, there's not other than confirmation of what we already understand. There's not anything new. So that might make it difficult. It can be a little dry, but that does usually lend to the most long-term profit. So we'll see. I'll see you guys in the morning. Enjoy your afternoon, your evening, your night, wherever you are. Watch out for some more charts tonight that are basically more of the same, but might offer some new opportunities, obviously, for some of you. So, yeah, I'll see you in the morning, guys.